That's Josh.
And that's Dan.
I'm Danny.
Oh, shoot.
And you're listening to Discography Discussions. Or, I pluralized it.
Yeah,
it's Discography Discussion.
There's only one discussion that you live and die by.
You know what's funny? The older you get, you pluralize everything.
Like Walmarts.
We're going to go to the Walmarts. That's Josh.
That's Danny.
And you're listening to Discography Discussion.
What band are you
no, we didn't say we're
you're not, Well, who the hell are these guys? They already know Dan's on the show.
Josh is back?
Yeah, Josh is back. Dan's on the show.
We are terrible at this. Yeah. All right.
We'll try it again.
So that's Danny.
That's Josh. And we're not beneath. And you're listening to
Discography Discussion.
Nice.
That was good. We'll take it.
What is up, gentlemen?
Hey.
Hello. Oh, hi.
Oh, is this going to happen? Am I going to do this? Ladies and gentlemen, it's Wayne's World Extreme Closeup! Whoa!
Nice. Oh, man.
Glad to know I'm talking to my peers.
What a day.
You're Pierce.
It appears.
Talking to a Pierce.
Pierce to a Pierce.
Jeff.
Pierce Brosnan?
I'm really jealous of that hoodie, by the way. If I was a little bit smarter when I was ordering my shirt, I would have got the hoodie instead. But yeah, exactly.
If this is, this is only going to be audio, right? So
yeah.
For those listening, I just kind of touched my man nip.
Oh, that's cool. We'll make sure to include that in the show.
I'll give it a sound effect. It'll sound, kind of flappy.
I'm going to tell Travis you guys nailed it on the first try.
Okay.
For sure. I've never heard of manip before. Is it anything like chesticles?
And if you're ready to learn the definition of manip, then you are ready for this episode of Discography Discussion. I am Joe. That is Dan. That is Jeff. That is Josh. That is Danny. They are not beneath, and we are talking about Meshuggah tonight.
Woohoo.
Oh, yeah.
And the droning has begun.
Oh, I love it.
After all of that intro, we're going to have plenty of outro, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely, my friend. Absolutely. We've been talking to these guys for like 3 hours now, so it's awesome.
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah, the night is whittled away, my friend, and we're not done with you yet.
I took a nap. I woke back up. We're still talking. This is great. You can do this all night.
So, guys, this is not beneath. They are guys and gals. Whoever's listening, it's not a guy-girl thing, but
that's generic.
To our listeners,
I saw it on the Olympics yesterday. They're like, "Hey guys, so what do you think of these figure skaters?" And it was like, a woman and a man.
Yeah, there's it's
the generic him.
There you go. These guys are not beneath, and they just put out an awesome record called Memento Mori.
I'm loving the name.
Yeah, it was really cool.
And the music, too.
And these guys play, like, really good metalcore, which is, like, an actual mixture of, like, death metal and hardcore. So now, like, when I say metalcore, I'm not talking about, like, like a Kill Switch Engage kind of.
Is this like last week where you're bringing back the classic title, Metallic Hardcore?
When we talked to Tetelestai, we nailed down what metalcore actually means. So, in that respect, these guys are the real deal. And if you guys are fans of stuff like Meshuggah or Cynic or even Death, you're gonna really dig these guys. So make sure to check them out. We will talk more about their album towards the end of the show. But tonight's topic, my friends, is the almighty Meshuggah.
Yes, indeed. We kind of feel like we were looking through the catalog of Discography Discussion and a little surprised that nobody nabbed up Meshuggah.
No, I'm actually stoked that you guys did this. Because I'm just the co-host, so my opinion doesn't count as much.
Just the co-host.
I've been wanting to do Meshuggah for maybe a little while, and I might have been saying something. So you guys got to get to the head of the class.
Awesome.
So I'm super happy about that.
That's going to be a T-shirt this year. You know that, right?
What's that?
I'm just the co-host. And I'm going to have a shirt that says, I'm with co-host.
So
mine's just going to say Dan.
With the arrow pointing that way.
Yeah, Dan's vote is 2.5 votes. My vote is 1 vote. Joe's vote is 1 vote. So essentially, whatever Dan votes for is what goes.
And I'm the editor, so I get to make the final decision.
Right. Yeah. He can hold a show for ransom if he wants to.
Yes, I'm just along for the ride.
So what is your guys' history with Meshuggah? Like what is it about Meshuggah that would make you want them to be the topic of your episode of Discography Discussion?
You want to go first?
Yeah. Well, I think that music is this really powerful medium, and there are definitely moments in someone's musical life, is what I'm going to refer to it as. There are moments in someone's musical life where you can put your finger on it and say, this is where things changed, because I learned something about music that I had never thought about before. And so I think that there's a lot of artists out there, especially in metal, that have really pushed that envelope and pushed me personally in directions that I had never gone before, musically, mentally, so Meshuggah is definitely one of those bands. Another one for me is the band Cynic. I thought, like, the first time I heard Cynic, I realized that metal can be anything you want it to be. So I think that it just, Meshuggah opened musical doors that not a lot of other bands have.
Yeah, I mean, just an overall revolutionary band. I mean, I think that, I mean, they're definitely one of the most important metal bands of all time. So important that they kind of, I guess, unexpectedly started a genre, or unintendedly. I mean, everybody trying to copy Meshuggah turned into gent.
Right.
You beat me to the punch.
And kind of when I think about it, Meshuggah is really not too very genty to me. I don't know if it's almost like people pin the whole like rap metal or rapcore thing on the Deftones. Well, at least and I don't hear that. And same thing with Meshuggah. Like, I hear maybe one genty song, and that was on Rare Tracks. It was the remix of Concatenation. Like, that's that might be the only one I can really think of. But yeah, I mean, a band that really revolutionized how so many bands do metal. So many bands are influenced by Meshuggah. Even like Bill Burr just did a podcast now, and he was like when you see them live, you realize that you're really seeing something special. He was like, when the drummers that you idolize, I'm paraphrasing, when the drummers you idolize are like looking at Meshuggah and being wow, then you're in for it. So
yeah, I think his quote was more like, when the drummers you're totally blown away by are totally blown away by this guy, that you're like witnessing something. So it was, yeah,
I definitely agree. I mean, like, for us, or at least for me, Jeff's like 100 years old, so he's going to be able to go way back with all this stuff. But for me, the first time I heard Meshuggah was probably like post 2000. The first album I heard by them was Catch 33, and I didn't like it because I wasn't into really heavy stuff. Maybe I was. No, I don't know. I feel like I was. I don't know. But I had only listened to predominantly Christian music up to that point, so like when I listened to Meshuggah and I read the lyrics, like I didn't get it, And so I heard like the first 4 songs on that record and thought like, well, this all sounds the same, And then, but right. It was like intentionally so. So it wasn't until I got a hold of Chaos Sphere that I realized, like, okay. So they were just doing a thing on Catch 33. It wasn't like necessarily like their sound, Like they were just taking what they had established on previous albums and doing something a little different with it. Whereas Chaos Sphere was kind of a mesh of their new direction and their older direction.
I found them at about the same time. It was an article in Guitar One talking about their 8-string guitars and how that was their signature thing, even though they were playing prototypes that did not stand
guitars.
Yeah. And talking about how they were able to write music together even though they were countries apart, just by sending stuff back and forth and the early days of the digital age of making music in pieces. And the first couple songs I heard, I didn't get it because they seemed very repetitive to me. And it wasn't until later where I got to go back and find Chaosphere specifically, and I heard, okay, I got it. They're doing something that's not normal, and then they're also playing in non-common time signatures. In 2018, it's annoying to talk about a band like Meshuggah who would play a song in 7 or play a song in 9, and that was kind of the gimmick. But it was different enough for the new guitar player who was idolizing James Hetfield and focusing on every single ounce of his technique to know that there was something else which would go on to influence other genres, or actually, like you said, create a genre.
Right.
And not every bit of that genre do I like, but I like the Meshuggah that I like. I don't even like all of Meshuggah. Sometimes it drones on for me. But it's like listening to Candiria do something that everybody else has done since they did it 10 years ago.
Right.
This was just the first guy. So I appreciate it for that.
I remember seeing Candiria on their 300% burnt. Is that right? 300% burnt?
I don't remember.
Or am I mixing up track names with Dillinger 43% burnt?
43% burnt.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like that was Dillinger, yeah.
I don't know, man. It's 300% something. But we played with them at Furnace Fest down in Alabama. And man, it was just so wild because it's like you're seeing these new ideas and you have no idea how they've put them together. You know, because the two parts don't equal the sum in your mind, but somehow in their minds it equaled that sum, and they're just putting it out, and it's like, this is fantastic.
Yeah.
And I can't believe that I'm seeing it with my eyes right now.
My first introduction was actually with Chaosphere. I was actually running a podunk music and bookstore out in the middle of nowhere, Kansas, where I was in college. Yeah, so yeah, I was when you were in middle school in what was you said 94. I was driving girls to the prom. So I'm an old fart. But yeah, so that was my first introduction, and then I was like, yeah, this is intense. And I was a big Death fan. And then when I actually went back and I found Destroy, Erase, Improve, and I'm like, okay,
yeah,
this is a seminal moment. This is, I mean, in my mind, that record still holds up today. And that came out in 95, I think it was.
95.
Yeah, 95.
I mean, it's unbelievable. The fact that modern bands still try to sound like them. Obviously, there's the whole sound. You know, everybody's going for the gent sound, but just how technical and progressive they were with their music and how they were all over the freaking place. I love that that's a little chaotic, but it's beautiful at the same time. They're absolutely amazing. They're one of the most important metal bands in the history of metal, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, no doubt. I think that's one of the beautiful things about genres like metal. I'm going to throw jazz in there too, and classical, because pop music is something that that always needs to be changing. But metal can stay fairly consistent and still remain new over, years. And same thing with jazz. Jazz and classical can be new all the time. But like for me, yeah. So I was saying like 94. I was in middle school. I was in 8th grade then. The first time I heard Meshuggah was in 96. It was in early 96. And the first time I heard them, kind of the same thing. It's kind of funny that I didn't really get it at first. It really didn't appeal to me. The first time I heard them, I was at my buddy's house, Chris, that I was in a band with for a while. He was the drummer for a band I played with called, first Gadfly and then North Meadow Park. But he used to send away for, Relapse had a catalog. And we used to, he used to order tapes just based on their description. So you look at this Relapse, this paper catalog, and it would say like Amorphous, essential. Like that was the only thing, the only description.
That sounds like somebody else I know.
That's accurate though. I mean,
and I was like, oh, like he'd be like, oh my gosh, like that's essential. Like I got to get that because it was so funny. Some of them would be like, oh, gosh, I can't remember. I'm just gonna make something up, but they would be outrageous. Like grindcore, like, oh, I'll try to remember the Exit 13 one, but like it'd be like grindcore from Pennsylvania that talks about like killing hunters, you know.
Vegan grindcore.
Like, wow, what a description. So we like he would just buy records off of a description. So he got a VHS tape called "Death Is Just the Beginning."
Oh, that's awesome.
It had the Transfixion video on there. And I heard it and I was just like, I don't know if I really dig it. Like I like Amorphous more.
Wasn't Transfixion on Contradictions Collapse?
No, Transfixion was Destroy, Erase, Approve.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
what track is Transfixion?
4.
What?
Yeah, track 4.
He's correct.
Or 5. Yeah,
it's 4.
It's 4. So I didn't really get it, but then I remember I still bought the disc. I don't know. This is weird how this works. And I remember I was listening to it at my mom's house, and I listened to Future Breed Machine, and the breakdown happened.
Yeah.
And I'd heard this record a few times, and I just it didn't resonate. But I heard it that one time, and I just got it. I was like, oh my! I get the entire record now, and it's kind of funny how a band or something that really kind of doesn't appeal to you, you just hear one little thing and it wins you over tenfold. So yeah, that changed my life. It's kind of weird to say that. I
don't think it's weird at all.
But that's something can have such a profound impact. I was sorry to take it here into like I maybe talk too much, but
dude, we're all music nerds. Go ahead.
Lead the way.
So I work for Audio Technica, and 6 years ago I went to NAMM. I go to NAMM almost every year. That's a large trade show. It's a large music trade show in Anaheim.
Not Vietnam.
Also, not Vietnam.
Not Vietnam.
No, not Vietnam. The NAMM. Wow, to plug
North American Music.
Like North American or National Association of Music Merchants. It's something like that.
So not.
Definitely not that. Thank God.
Woo. Okay.
So I'll talk to people.
We were topical, and then we took a left turn into questionable there.
Have you met Jeff?
Sorry, that's my MO.
Jeff, ladies and gentlemen.
So it's kind of weird who you get starstruck by, like Tito from the Jackson 4. Came into
how many is it now?
Wow.
I know. Well, Tito came into our booth and I was just like, hey, Tito, what's up? Like, it just didn't do anything for me. But I saw Jens Kidman and I saw Dick Lovegren go into the Shure booth right next to us. Ooh. And I nearly had a panic attack. And they were doing a meet and greet. And the next day, so I kind of rubbed elbows with their manager and I was like, hey, I'd really like to be able to take you guys to dinner. I was trying to use my corporate pool. And they called me the last day of the show, 30 minutes before I was supposed to go out to eat with the rest of the Audio Technica crew. And they said, hey, would you like to go meet us at the Cheesecake Factory? And I was like, yes, I'm going. I don't care.
Right.
So I went and I got to meet and I got to eat dinner with all the guys in Meshuggah. And I'm trying so hard not to be a fanboy and tell them
too late
in a pleasant way, hey, you guys changed my life. Like I was 15, 16 years old and I heard Destroy, Erase, Improve and it changed my world. So yeah.
So are you saying that you have eaten cheesecake with Meshuggah?
With Meshuggah.
Yeah. I ate cheesecake.
That's like, I mean, why isn't that on the front of your guys' CD?
I think that's going to be the opening of the show.
Including people that have eaten cheesecake with Meshuggah. I would buy the CD on that alone. Yeah.
Called Reality.
Reality, there you go.
We'll call it Reality, and then I ate cheesecake with Meshuggah. That's going to be the title track. Right.
All right, looking forward to that.
Sounds like the opening of a Psycho Stick record.
Right.
I ate cheesecake with Meshuggah. It was delicious.
Syncopate everything real hard. And
what was interesting about Meshuggah for me was that they went... Like going back to the first record,
All right, before we get to Meshuggah with Not Beneath, I'm going to take some time to say thank you to everyone for listening to this podcast. Thank you for listening and for subscribing. If you are not a subscriber, you can find everything Discography Discussion at discussmetal.com. We are on Google Play, iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, so if you have an Amazon Echo or a Google Home, you have no excuse. Ask it to play the latest episode of the Discography Discussion podcast, and it will. We're also on Facebook and on Twitter at Discuss Metal. Be sure to like, favorite, and subscribe. It really helps us out. It lets us know you're listening. And now Dan is going to tell us all about 5-star reviews.
We love 5-star reviews here on Discography Discussion, and we have continued to get ratings. We love ratings. Anything that you feel that you need to share with everybody else about the podcast, you can do so on any of our platforms. You can leave us 5-star reviews, including Facebook. And on Apple Podcasts. So whatever you got, send it to us, and we'll read it on the show.
And now Jeff is going to tell us all about our guest, Not Beneath.
Oh, I think you're going to have to stay tuned for that one.
Like, that record is so different than how Meshuggah would end up sounding later on. But it's not that. Like, you can still tell you're listening to Meshuggah. It still sounds like music that's being played by robots, like if that can be spun as a positive thing, because whenever people would talk about Meshuggah with me, they would say it sounds like metal from the future. And now in 2018, it's like dead accurate,
Yeah.
And but yeah, it's like you had a little bit more melody though in the beginning. You had a little bit more like almost like passionate, like real people playing music. And back then it would almost had more to do with almost like thrash metal than death.
Yeah, it was definitely more thrash.
And
we're talking about Contradictions Collapse, right?
Yeah, sorry, did I not say the name of the record? Sorry, I do that.
Yeah, Contradictions Collapse. Yeah.
Contradictions Collapse, yeah. So, and that record, is actually one of my favorites. I mean, it's nothing compared to Chaos Sphere, but I really like that record because it's kind of like the primordial Meshuggah. Like, they weren't really sure where they were going to go yet.
It's like Self-Titled Living Sacrifice, where it's basically a Slayer record in disguise.
No, it's not like that, because Self-Titled Living Sacrifice, as great as it is, sounds identical from the beginning to end. Whereas with Contradictions Collapse, it's primordial Meshuggah. And because of that, because they're going in so many different directions, the side result is that you get a lot more variety on this record than you get on a lot of other Meshuggah records.
This is also the answer to my question: would Meshuggah sound like a standard metal thrash band, very syncopated, if they weren't playing in such low tunings? And the answer is, well, kind of. But
I don't know. I mean, they didn't get into really low tunings until after. I think
it was it was Destroy, Erase, Improve.
Yeah, well, they were playing 7 strings on Destroy, Erase, Improve.
They were that's like their lower tune. Like they were in D or E for up through none.
Right.
And then when they got I'm like, gosh, man, I feel like I'm a Meshuggah historian. When they went over to Ibanez Universe 7 strings,
right? That's
when they started playing in B, right. And that continued up until Nothing,
which is when
which is their album Nothing,
right. No, actually, that's Nothing's their best-selling album, if I'm not mistaken.
If I had to,
I would say
I'd be surprised about that.
Yeah, I think it's because I thought it was because Chaos Sphere was such a and Destroy, Erase, Improve got them such notoriety that everybody bought that on, I guess, street cred, so to speak.
Right.
I'll have
to
look it up.
Which makes sense.
Well, I can't remember exactly which one. I'd have to cheat and look it up, and I guess I could. I got the phone with me.
It's heavy as piss, man.
Yeah,
it's really...
They actually, one of their albums, they sold over 100,000 copies of one of them, which was just, for the type of music that they are, is just mind-boggling. I mean, that's insane.
Well, that's what happens when you're that seminal band that everybody really leeches off of as far as influence goes.
Honestly, not really. I'm gonna disagree with you on that, Joe.
All right.
I feel like bands that are innovative never get the credit that they deserve. I think a lot of the time, even if you hear a band that you think is seminal, it is entirely possible that they are literally just aping a band you've never heard of. Okay. I'm not saying that's the case with Meshuggah.
Example.
But I am saying in general.
Black Sabbath. Who were they aping?
Okay, sure. Let's go back to the beginnings of metal, Joe. But no, what I'm saying is like, no. But what I'm trying to say is that a lot of the times the bands that get bigger are influenced by what's going on in their local.
Very true.
In their local scene.
Are you saying in underground metal that's the case?
In underground metal, that's the case. Okay. That's what I'm trying to say.
I like it. I agree.
All right, and nothing.
Josh wants to say something. I was
just thinking if you're looking at what was going on in like Europe at the time, in like especially around the time of Destroy, Erase, Improve, it was all like that Gothenburg mellow death sound, and you had In Flames and Dark Tranquility and At the Gates, and then you've got when did Carcass's Heartwork come out? 94?
93.
So,
we should know this.
Yeah, we know. We love Carcass.
We just did the Carcass episode a few weeks ago.
Scott Mellinger?
I should know this. Yeah,
Scott. Sure.
Good old Scott.
Yeah. But I mean, if you look around, I highly doubt that they were very influenced by any of that, or else we would have seen, there's no mellow death, like melodic death metal traits to Destroy, Erase, Improve.
No, I agree, and I'm not making that argument.
And I think that they just pushed their own envelope and just. But I think that I agree in that all these seminal bands are. You can watch their own evolution. Like Death. Death, you can watch the evolution of that band, and you can watch basically it's the evolution of Chuck Schuldiner. That evolution takes place over a decade. Did Scream Bloody Gore came out in 87?
86, I think.
86.
No, wait. God, I should know this too. We didn't just do the Death episode, but
we know you don't do dates well, Dan. It's okay.
It was the 80s after I was born. Let's see. I want to say it was like 86, 87.
It was 86, 87.
Because I feel like Leprosy was like still 80s. So it couldn't have been
Leprosy
that
came
late.
out in 89.
89. So yeah, it had to have been 87 on Scream Bloody Gore.
Yeah. So I mean, you watch from like 87 till 98. So over 12 years, and you watch this progression into something completely different than where they started when they started out. So,
well, yeah, I guess it's kind of the same with Meshuggah.
I think it's the same thing with Meshuggah. You see contradictions collapse, and even from Scream Bloody Gore to by the time Death got to Human, or for Meshuggah, it's from contradictions collapse till they like that whole Destroy, Erase, Improve, Chaos Sphere. I kind of feel like that's the same time. I don't really feel that there was a lot of differentiation between those two records, other than Chaos Sphere has got some of the worst production.
It sounds pretty bad, but
ever.
Yeah.
I think it's the mastering job. I really do think that the mastering is not really good on that album, and I hate saying that because one of my favorite engineers, Daniel Bergstrand, recorded both Destroy, Erase, Improve and Chaos Sphere. But I can something is really way too sizzly about Chaos Sphere to me. There's just so much top end.
Yeah, it's very off-putting, especially on headphones to listen to. It's not so bad blaring it in the car like I was on the way down here, but I think that it was. I think it's very top heavy, and there's just, and it's like that. Knowing Meshuggah, it's one of those like it could have been intentional, but I don't feel like it was. In this case.
I don't either. And I kind of feel like if they were to benefit from they remastered, they did the Destroy, Erase, Improve.
Yeah.
And that to me that still sounded like okay, you just took something that sounded good, made it sound good in a different way.
Right.
But I think Chaos Sphere would be the one that would benefit most from a remaster. But yeah.
Hear that, Meshuggah? You know,
I could always. I wouldn't contact them to let them know. But yeah,
but next time we see them, we should just like, hey guys,
let me tell you where you could be better.
Yeah.
So the next time you're having cheesecake with them,
you guys changed my life, but you know. So cheesecake, we're never eating cheesecake with you again. Yeah.
Right.
Unless Thomas Hake, his girlfriend is on that show Orange is the New Black.
Okay.
Jessica Pimentel.
Yeah. And the last time we saw them, she was in their trailer with them. And I felt a little starstruck. Like,
yeah.
I'm in the trailer with like one of my favorite bands, and I'm like, these are just guys. Like, it doesn't matter to me. Like that's great that I'm here, you know. But I felt really starstruck that, you know, this actress is also there. That was one of the weirdest things. Like, you know, you meet your favorite bands, you think you're going to be starstruck, and you're not. You're starstruck by their TV star girlfriend.
Right. Yeah, that's
like, hey Tito, hey, how you doing? You know, like, oh my God,
that's a really bad. That's a really horrible thing that I'm always afraid of with what we do. Is that one of these days we're going to get somebody on the show and I'm just going to be all like, oh my God. You know, like, can you? Do you guys remember when you guys did this? It was so awesome.
You remember the Scott Millinger episode?
Yeah, I was a little bit like that. Zayo is by far like my go-to band. I mean, they're like just everything they do. I love, and I'll always be that way. Even if they put something out and it sucks balls, like I'll still be like, it's actually really good, guys. You know.
Luckily, their last two releases have been fantastic.
Amazing. Yeah, they've killed it.
It's like they're on the upswing again. I don't want to say that Zayo was really ever on a downswing, but there was a couple albums where it didn't feel right. Like when they recorded with Steve Albini.
Yeah.
And it just didn't feel right. But these last two, like Pyrrhic Victory, it's like, whoa, like things are like,
yeah, thing's killer, man.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, good dudes, man. They're all really good dudes. I know we're talking about Meshuggah, but Zayo is they're all class acts.
Absolutely.
We've known them for a long time.
Both iterations of Zayo.
Yeah, both iterations. Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, and that's one of our favorite. Like Scott's one of our favorite people to have on the show because, again, it's like there's the whole starstruck stuff. Like, because the first time we had him on the show, I was very much like trying not to be like, you know. Don't ask him about Zayo, you know, or don't ask him about... Yeah, because we were supposed to be talking about Neurosis. That was the band.
Right. I would just want to talk to him the whole time about Creation is Crucifixion.
Yeah, totally.
Right. Well, it was like...
Hey, Scott, remember Bottom Feeder? That's my favorite song from Creation. Yeah. I love it.
Dude, you know, and I thought about that too, like, whenever we introduced him on the show, like, all right, guys, and Scott Mellinger, you may know him from Creation is Crucifixion. You know, like...
Yeah. We brought up Jade Meridian on the show.
Jade Meridian, yeah. But,
yes.
Yeah. So the fact that he ever wanted to talk to us again after that was awesome.
Hey, it's not my fault. He did a hard rock band with Steve Peck that I don't get to see anymore.
All right, yeah.
I don't remember any of that episode.
Yeah, Jeff was pretty toasty on that one. So anyway, but yeah, I don't like.
Did he talk about like? Well, have you ever like you know about Seasons in the Field or Sower?
I actually have Seasons in the Field's demo. It was a split that they did with Pensive. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't have an actual copy of it, but I have.
I love it.
Digital.
But before Seasons in the Field, they were Sower.
Okay.
And the first time we saw, at least the first time I saw Sower, all the guys in the band were wearing black turtlenecks.
Nice.
And when we saw them, like it was
the 90s.
My old band that I was talking about, like Gadfly, we did a show in Cleveland in 97 where it was Seasons in the Field, Strong Arm, and Gadfly opened up. Then it was Seasons in the Field, and then it was Zayo and Strong Arm.
Wow.
It was a killer show. Oh man, it was so good. But we were talking about like going to see them and wearing black turtlenecks saying I love Sower on it.
We used to show up to Zayo shows after Dan joined the band. We would show up to Zayo shows with these t-shirts that we would make that said I love Sower.
Yes.
And he would get so mad at us.
All I see in my head when you bring up the black turtlenecks is Sprockets from SNL. Now is the time on Sower when we sing.
Would you like to touch my monkey?
So if we ask Dan to be on the show, so I should bring up Sower immediately as soon as he comes on.
Dan, like Scott. I don't know if Scott would really
know anything about.
Yeah,
it.
but Russ, definitely Russ and Dan.
Okay,
and maybe even Marty.
I'll keep that in mind.
Marty
I can have some fun with him,
right?
Because Marty was in Pensive. Yeah,
yeah, he would have been around that like Greensburg, PA scene.
Well, we'll have some fun with that.
I feel like they're being called out by Not Beneath on this one.
I know, right?
Well, we're old farts, man. I guess at least the three of us are.
Yeah, that's right.
You gotta throw Jeff in there.
Yeah. See, that's why I like going. That's why I like talking with Travis, because Travis is actually older than I am by a couple of years.
He is. Yeah.
He's got a couple on me.
Knowledge.
Oh yeah.
So hey, Meshuggah.
Meshuggah. That's a band. Yeah.
Nothing. It was nothing that had. It was 110,000 copies sold.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
awesome.
I don't necessarily think it's their strongest release, but yet it's 110,000.
I don't know. You definitely have a jaded opinion on the strongest release.
It's pretty strong, though. I mean,
I might shock some people on what my. Well, maybe I won't. I think I have a two-way tie for first place. I think it's pretty obvious. Destroy, Erase, Improve is in 1A. 1B for me is Obzen. I love that album.
Okay,
my man. You and me, right here. Oh yeah.
We just had a moment. Did you guys see that moment just happen?
Yeah. Hey,
do I need to play some shiny music while that's going on?
It's great. It's me.
We're the same.
We're the same.
Did we just become best friends?
Yes. And here's the good thing is that my last exposure to a Josh ended up with me in a car trunk. So this is a much better experience.
Our old co-host has been known to return to the show, kidnap Jeff, and try to take his place again. So
that's normally our excuse whenever I can't make a show.
Yeah, we'll call our old host up and be like, "Hey, man, you want to come on and do one?" And he's like, "Yeah, guys." And then we're like, "Okay, cool." And then we don't hear from Jeff for like 2 weeks. It's an ongoing joke.
Yeah, that's what happens when you work a 9 to 5.
You
and
know
got teenagers.
The joke's not funny when you explain it.
So I never claimed to be a funny guy. So I'm with you on that for the most part, Jeff. I Destroy, Erase, Improve is really great, but I just love Chaosphere so much, even though it doesn't sound that great. But like, dude, I listen to I spend most of my day listening to like 90s Christian hardcore bands that nobody's ever heard of. So like, if you can think of like the sound quality of all of that stuff, Chaosphere sounds pretty damn good in comparison. So it's one of those things where the production quality on it doesn't bother me as much because I'm just so enraptured by the insanity of it all.
Yeah, to me, it's definitely Destroy, Erase, Improve. To me, that's the clear-cut front runner. Which one is ultimately the best is going to be, subjective. But for me,
extremely subjective.
Yeah. Hold on. Hey. Yeah. Babe, did you just call me? Oh, good night. I love you. My little boy's going to bed.
Hashtag dad life.
Thank you for all your sound
love
bites.
It's the best. Album number 2, I'm gonna have to go with Chaosphere.
Yeah,
Chaosphere is my number 3.
Well, do we throw EPs?
If you want,
none.
Go ahead.
Is you gonna say none?
None. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, None is kind of a funny story about that too. Is song 3 that I can't remember. Let me look it up. Ritual, right? So I remember talking to them about that. I'm one of the lucky few that got to see Meshuggah's first North American performance in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 1998, the Metal Fest, Milwaukee Metal Fest.
Street cred.
And this is so silly, but I talked to them about that album, and they told me that they didn't like the song Ritual, and they I want to say that like Thomas said that it was like their attempt at doing something like Foo Fighters-y, and they just didn't like it at all.
What?
Yeah,
I want
to say that that's the case. I'm almost positive. The only thing I can really truly remember about, well, aside from the performance, about talking to them, was that I bought I bought them their first AC records. They never heard of AC, and they were selling 7 inches everywhere because it was a metal show, and it was, 1998. And there was 40 More Reasons to Hate Us, and I Like It When You Die, and I bought both of them for Frederick Thorndahl and Thomas Hockey.
Well, you really do have an intimate relationship with them. That's actually, I think that's pretty freaking cool that you get to come on and spread the knowledge.
Hey guys, I bought this for you. I love you.
I got stories. They're crazy.
That's how I became friends with Jeff. I bought him a video game.
Yeah, he did. Seriously.
Yeah. That's nice.
Yeah.
He bought me Cabal on the NES, and
whoa,
we've been besties ever since.
And then you were creeping on him on the phone at work.
That's a long time ago.
Yeah, I used to run a video game store, and he used to come in and blow all his money he should have been spending on his wife on video games. And I was fine with it because that meant I was getting a paycheck, so I'm cool with it.
Right.
And then he's like, and we started talking about video games, and somehow Cabal came up in conversation. I was like, oh man, I wish we had that game here. I love that game. He comes back like 3 hours later. He's like, oh yeah, look what I got. I got Cabal for you. Merry Christmas. And I'm like, you're my kind of guy.
That's nice.
Yeah,
nice.
Dan's nice. So I gave him an Evil Dead 2 theatrical release poster.
Yes.
I still haven't found a frame for it.
Yeah,
my favorite movie.
Yeah, he was talking about like taping up on the wall, and I was like, oh my god, I will buy you a frame.
Bruce is around the corner.
Fits you?
Yeah, we have.
No, Campbell.
Nice.
Bruce fits you. Man, I got a story about that guy too. Maybe we'll circle back to that later.
Right, yeah.
But a pretty
once
funny
we get
one.
through this Meshuggah discussion, we can talk about whatever we want.
I've met Meshuggah a few times, 3, 4, no more than that. 5 times I got to hang out with him about that.
Admit it, you guys were just hanging out before you came on.
Maybe it's possible.
No. Here's the big question: is do they recognize you? They're like, it's that guy?
Yeah,
that's that. You made it.
It's kind of cool. Yeah. Jens came up to me during the last show, and because they were kind of busy, and I didn't want to really bug them because I'm friends with their manager now, and it was
a really their entire crew.
It's what you would expect. They're all awesome. Yeah. They're all masters at what they do.
Yeah.
And Ronnie is no exception. That dude is a master manager. So I'm talking to them, and Jens hits my chest, and he was like, "Hey, man!" And I'm like, oh, "You recognize me?"
Oh my god!
I was like, "Yeah, hey, man, how's it going?" And I just kind of didn't want to bug them because they're all busy. And that's the rock and roll life, I guess. We're in a pretty small trailer. Jessica Pimentel was there, and I'm like, I want to hang out with the roadies because. They're the guys making everything happen behind the scenes, and I kind of like the band where they're at.
Yeah, for sure.
I will say this just real quickly about that show is the fact that we saw them at it's an outdoor
venue.
Yeah,
it's a large pavilion.
So you lose a lot of sound. They're opening for Megadeth, and you just recognize how good a crew they have with them. Simply for the fact that Megadeth sounded like garbage, and Megadeth, and Meshuggah sounded like Meshuggah.
Yeah,
nice.
So that's a testament to how well refined all these guys are in their craft.
It's very cool.
Yeah, man.
I love the fact that you're saying Jens instead of Jens. We had a discussion about that on the In Flames episode because I kept on calling him Jesper instead of Jesper, and I kept on getting grief for it. I'm like, okay,
is it Jesper Stromblad?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Hey, it's the cheat. It's Stromblad. Oh man! If I ever meet him, he's gonna kill me. Oh.
Probably.
Yeah.
I get that vibe from him. No, I just remember being really angry on that episode.
Oh, man.
That's all I remember.
We got, Dan and I both, we just went on a straight up diatribe because
In Flames.
Yeah, because we worshipped In Flames for years. I mean, both of us loved In Flames, and now it's It just you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. I don't because I still love them. I still get to go back and listen to that back catalog anytime I want. But what they put out now, just not my thing.
Everything up through Clayman.
Yeah.
I mean, everything. Like, I loved, like, Subterranean, like, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Was
Lunar Strain, all that good stuff. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Man, Horacle was where it was at.
The Hive, man.
Yeah.
Love that song.
But everything up through Clayman was like, I love this band. And, you know, I loved all the mellow death coming out of Gothenburg. That it was all great.
Yeah.
But so I was in Narcissus. We were signed to a sub label of Century Media. And so Century Media is kind of like, at the time, was kind of like married to Nuclear Blast. So all of those releases were just kind of getting distroed through Century Media here in the States a lot. I don't know if that's still the case anymore or what, but so we're at our label out in LA. We get to ransack the warehouse. I'm like, I just want In Flames t-shirts. And our A&R guy's like, I've got their new record. Do you want to hear it? And it was
hell yeah.
Oh no.
One with Cloud connected on it.
The Cloud connected record.
Reroute to Remain.
Yeah.
Reroute to Remain. Worst album title ever. But yeah, I was just so let down by it. I don't know. It was the descent. That was the beginning of the end.
It's funny because I liked that song, but then that was it.
No.
And I was like, oh, okay, like, dun, 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 dun. I'm like, okay, I can kind of dig it. And then, like, the rest of it was so unmemorable. I was like, that's kind of mean to say. But for me, it didn't resonate. That record did not resonate with me at all. I'll say that. Sorry, In Flames.
No, it's fine. I'm just going to say, if you decide to pull that episode up, don't do it with your kids around. I know I seem like a nice guy, but I
listen to podcasts at work, like in my headphones, all day long.
Nice.
So
yeah. So Meshuggah.
If you were gonna sell a Meshuggah record to somebody who had never heard the band, what record would you sell them?
Destroy, Erase, Improve.
Destroy, Erase, Improve.
But why? Like, sell it to us.
I would say because I don't need to say anything about it. It'll speak for itself.
Exactly.
I know that's kind of like a cop-out answer.
Metal musical genius.
I would probably start off by saying it's just like whenever I had to describe Meshuggah to a few coworkers, and I said it's very like mathy music. It's very mathy metal. There's a lot of what's called syncopation, which is, doing, which is a jazz term, like doing kind of unexpected, doing the unexpected in music, so to speak, where you think they're going to go one way, you think they're going to hit one note or do one rhythm, and they don't do it. They add another, eighth note, or they add a little something at the end to kind of throw everything off, but they do it very tactfully. And I'd probably, I would hone in on the breakdown. Like, this was the breakdown written in 95 that did it for me. And then say, okay, if that opens you up, then the rest of the album might make more sense now.
I had heard or read maybe an interview with Frederick Thorndahl and maybe Martin Hagstrom that talked about the joy of waiting for the riff to come back around and line back up with the drums, and how exciting it was to for them even to like watch these riffs birth out of just like these circular patterns where they're waiting to see what actually occurs. And so I think that's one of those things that, like, if you listen to it from that aspect where you're listening and waiting for rhythms to line back up and see where those alignments occur, and like man, that's so cool right there, you know. But yeah, everybody knows that Future Breed Machine. You know, it's seminal.
Good word.
I jokingly refer to Meshuggah as the guide to metalheads for how to count to 11. Because it really doesn't matter what album you listen to. If you're listening to the seminal or even the newer ones that I'm not as big of a fan of, a lot of the stereotype Meshuggah sound is just odd time signature. Guitars are heavy with some sludge, but they're not out of control. The out of control guitar sludge that came with Degent and similar styles of metal came from, in my opinion, listening to Meshuggah and then playing it very sloppy.
Yeah.
I get the same joy out of listening to Meshuggah just for the off time that's going on, because to do that well takes practice, takes endurance, takes focus.
Right.
The only other artist that really comes to mind that did something similar is Frank Zappa. And when I listened to Meshuggah, I thought, this is a metal band with a conductor who's triggering the band to go in a certain direction one at a time. I've seen a lot of old Zappa videotapes and DVDs courtesy of my uncle, and I've been told stories because my uncle, old school music fan, he's given me all of my odd records. I'm not going to bring up Captain Beefheart, even though I just did. Where you see Frank Zappa pick a guy in the band and he'd count him off, and it'd be a weird time signature, and then he'd go to the next guy, and I'm thinking, oh, he's going to count him off. No, he changed the number.
Yeah.
And Meshuggah does the same thing. Now, for some people, the off time signature isn't enough. They say, well, all they're doing is playing in an odd time signature. Yeah, and they're staying together.
Well, right.
Go listen to odd band that plays with odd time signature and see if they can stay together as cleanly as this band does.
Well, I think that's kind of the whole, you can't be that technical of a band and not have to have it together. You know, it's like, in a way, it's like all the different pieces and parts of a car. It's all complicated, but it all has to fit. It all has to work, or else it's just not happening. I mean, like Extol would be like a prime example. When they do kind of, you know, similar things where they add a displacement at the end of a part that extends it just like another quarter note, if they're playing something in like a 11/8 or 13/8 or 15/8, something like that. Like the nature of the signature means that you have to be precisioned, because if not, then it's not that signature. I mean, I guess in the truest sense of it. And that's really what Meshuggah is. They are very precisioned. There are no mess ups. Everything is in perfect time every time. It's just, to me, like, they will always be, they're always going to be my favorite band no matter what they do. I guess that's all I have to say about, like, you know, that's all I have to say about that.
The only other thing I would add to that is they're also one of the few bands of this style. Talk about, you know, a seminal artist and influence on everybody that followed. They're one of the few bands that play this way that will actually play in an odd time signature and hold it for longer than a measure or two.
Right.
Yeah, they're going to groove for the next 4 minutes, but you're listening and waiting for them to mess up.
Right.
Whereas insert other progressive metal band, we have this little break where we go from 7 and then we go to 9, and then we have to come back over here to 5, and then we change to 7, and only 20 seconds have gone by. You almost sound like the band is in a hurry to stay together. Meshuggah? Nope. We're playing in 14 now. We're going to be here a while.
I'm glad that when other bands do that, though, because it's kind of like they're not on it. They're not really truly trying to copy Meshuggah. Like, I use Intronaut as the example. Like
that's interesting.
like Intronauts, like, they do a lot of off time and like a lot of syncopation, but they're not trying to sound like Meshuggah. They in a way they're like, okay, well, Meshuggah did this. Let's maybe do a 9 piece and then a 7 piece and then a 13 piece and then bring it back. But when you have that, it's hard to have a groove where Meshuggah Right can do that and somehow maintain this groove. Like the Violent Sleep of Reason, when you listen to that song at all, when you listen to that to the title track, it's kind of the same thing. It's kind of all over the place, but there's still that groove. There's still that steady quarter note that, even though Thomas Hackett, like, they're all syncopating the crap out of it, there's still a groove. And I think that's the other thing about Meshuggah. They're able to establish a groove no matter how crazy they're playing.
Yeah, it's funny that the reason why we said really whenever you mention Intronaut is because we just did an Intronaut episode.
Oh, yes.
Nice. A couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I did see that.
Yeah, so Direction of the Last Things. I love that album, the newest one.
Yeah.
They nailed it.
Yeah, the last three songs. I'm like, everybody talks about like the first half of that album. For me, it's the second half. One of my favorite songs, Sol Portacio, is on that. Like, of all time, I love that song.
Yeah, they're another one of those bands though that they have this underlying groove always going.
Right. Oh yeah. Totally.
And it's just like Jens Kidman, where you see him on stage where he's just nodding his head, and it's with the snare drum. And like, if you see Intronaut live, that bass player, is just nodding his head the whole time. Yeah. I mean, it's just the whole time.
He's holding it down.
Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah. We saw Intronaut when they did their tour with Cloud Kicker and Tesseract. So it was what was it? Intro Kicker or Cloudtronaut, or how did?
I don't remember what they called it. Yeah. But yeah, that show was insane. Cloud Kicker, Ben Sharp, dude is like, he might not ever admit it, but the dude is a genius. He's a genius. I love Ben Sharp. I love you, Ben Sharp. If you're listening, I love you.
See, I feel like I missed out on Intronaut. I just found out about this band last year from a listener request. You should listen to this band, and I kicked myself day one. I was in this hole, and I mentioned this on the episode. I thought Between the Buried and Me was the only band that sounded like this that was really good.
You should listen to Extol. Have you heard Extol?
I've heard Extol. I've never listened to Extol extensively, courtesy of this guy.
Dude, are you serious right now?
I'm serious.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
I just want to be the guy that introduces somebody to Extol.
22 years and counting?
No, dude, come on. We've been friends that long, and I've never made you sit down and listen to all of it.
So here's the thing about listening to music with Dan.
I mean, all of it, man.
Usually what he does to you
Burial,
is you're in the passenger seat of the car
Synergy,
and he's driving, changing songs every 20 seconds. So you catch on to these little things that you love, and you're like, hey, we should listen to that again. No, I'm not listening to that. We're listening to Extol. Well, we should listen to more of that. No, I'm listening to Zayo now.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Well, hey, can we call dibs on Extol too? Maybe in a later time.
Ooh,
please. Has that ever happened before? Has a guest ever called dibs?
Yes.
On doing the next? Okay. Whether you honor that or not is up to you, but we'd really like to be considered for that one too.
Okay.
Okay, so we're up through nothing. I think next would be like Catch 33i. Both those records came out within a couple years of each other.
Yeah, Catch 33 and Catch 33 was 2004.
5.
No, 2005. Yeah, 2005. Right. And Ubzen was that was like 9. It was 10 years ago. Ubzen was 10. Bleed is 10 years old.
Yeah.
If that doesn't totally blow your mind as a metal listener, I don't know what will, aside from listening to Destroy, Erase, and Prove the first time.
Obzen was what really brought me back to Meshuggah. They had just really lost me with and Catch 33.
Yeah,
I thought that there were some really good moments on Catch 33, but I needed after Nothing was kind of I just kind of felt like I was in this lost kind of wasteland in the middle of their discography. Obzen really brought me back. I mean, and you could leave Bleed off that record, and it would still be,
It'd still be really good.
My third favorite Meshuggah record.
It was a return to form.
Yeah, Combustion is a great track. One of my favorites too on this.
Lethargica is easily one of my favorite Meshuggah tracks ever. And they did a version of it on the Ophidian track.
Oh yeah.
That is they slowed it down to like I want to say it's like under 100 BPM. And I mean when they come back from, you know, all great Meshuggah tracks have like the little what am I trying to say, where everything gets real quiet and they're just kind of playing a little
thing, like a little, almost like it's like interlude-ish.
Yeah, little interlude on the guitar. They're like barely playing anything, then they drop it like it's hot.
Yeah,
like dubstep.
It's kind of like that scene. It's kind of like that scene in God's Not Dead where Hercules is crossing the street.
Oh God!
Boom! Sorry, it's just like that.
Meshuggah, quickly.
Yeah, sorry.
So just like dubstep, except completely not at all like that.
So you mean good is what you're saying.
Perfect. Okay.
To comment too on Catch 33, because I know a couple of you guys said that that Catch 33 was the first time you heard it, right? Like definitely you, Dan.
Yeah, it was my first time.
Joe or Jeff?
I think it was Joe, because for me it was Chaos Sphere.
Catch 33 is a really tough record for it to be your first Meshuggah record.
It really was.
It's a tough one to get through, because like at first I kind of like, for a while again, like I didn't like it. I was like, oh man, I'm really not feeling this release. And then I kind of felt like I got a pulse on it where they wanted to do what their version of a concept album would be, where they're like there's no set track, so to speak, even though like they had a couple, I guess you can say, in there, like Shed. I love the song Shed. It's definitely my favorite song on the album. Then there's the duo of In Death is Life and In Death is Death. But yeah, it starts off and you're kind of just like, I don't really know where this is going. And like I kind of was like, oh yeah, it's still not totally my thing. But then a couple years later, Zen comes out, and that was wow. And for me, it was Electric Red.
Yes,
like Electric Red was that was my favorite track on there. Oh man, that is really such a good record.
Yeah, there's nothing I dislike on there.
It was a really killer return. I mean, it's not like they went away, but Catch 33 is not something that is not something the average listener is going to latch onto. It's going to be one of those records where, like, of course, the first time I heard it, I told everybody that, I like it or whatever, because I was being a pretentious, like I wanted to get it, and I felt like people would think that I was smarter because I liked that record, but yeah, as far as like records that are listenable, that one, I mean, dude, that song Mind's Mirror, it's like, that song freaks me out. Like, it's
is that the one with the vocoder on it?
Yeah. Vocoders.
Just so you know, and to throw this in there too, doing a vocoder like Meshuggah was not what Not Beneath intended to do at all.
But we had just always said anything that we want to do, like melody-wise with vocals, we just always wanted to do with vocoder.
With vocoder,
sure. Like just do it somehow. We weren't sure what, but
but
we weren't like Meshuggah or Cynic or any of those bands that have used vocoder. We were not trying to like.
You're trying to be like a Hasbro toy.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, Soundwave was my favorite Transformer, and I figured I wanted it to kind of sound like if Soundwave were in a metal band. So,
dude, I'm there. I got a ton of Gen 1 Transformers.
Oh man, he was the best. And I talked about this on Trav's podcast about how Frank Welker was the voice of a lot of Transformers, and he was the voice of Soundwave too. And he used an old like Roland VP 330 is I'm almost still certain what the name was, vocoder. And it's still like it. I bought a vocoder just to try to do that. I bought a keyboard vocoder, and it didn't do it. It didn't have what that old vocoder had, like that warmth in it. But I ended up selling it and using a totally different vocoder for the Not Beneath record anyways. But I digress. Hey, Meshuggah.
No, it's cool. That's related, though. I mean, I wanted to make sure to mention that song just because I wanted to pull that out. And yeah, like, I don't think it sounds like it did. At least on the Not Beneath record, I don't think it sounds like it did on Mind's Mirrors. But I do think that song, kind of get back to what I was saying about it originally, was that, like, it is literally one of the most unsettling pieces of music I've heard. Right. Like, it's just, and I don't know why. It's not like, I mean, obviously we're metalheads, right? We listen to scary music, but like, there's just something about like, almost like feeling like a spider's crawling up your back while you're listening to it.
You've been listening to Pig Destroyer again, haven't you?
I'll be listening to that all next week. So yeah, God help me. But
yeah, freak me out. That'd be Ghost Brigade. I love them. They're haunting. They freak me out.
So, if you guys had like a final thought on Meshuggah, we'll give our final thoughts as well.
We still have 2 more albums to go.
Yeah, we do.
Oh, wait. Sorry. My bad.
Dan, are you losing count?
I am. I'm such
It's been a long week.
Dude, no joke. I'm more scattered this past couple of weeks than I have ever been in my life. I'm like so not on top of it on so many levels. So like it's been rough.
Thank you for that soundbite.
Oh, nice. But yeah, no, like, I mean, seriously, I apologize.
No, it's all good, man. I mean, like, I'm glad that he's home now with you guys, and yeah, you don't like seeing stuff like that. Period. Yeah. Like, you project, I'm like, God, man, if my kid was in the hospital, like, that would just be the worst.
I couldn't spend really any time with him, like, because I had 2 other kids, so, like, my wife had to stay up there the whole time, and so she was getting irritated and upset, but, like, my wife is, like, literally Arthur's only food source.
Yeah,
so it's not like we could take turns or trade off or anything.
Right.
And, yeah, so, like, that whole experience, like, threw me completely off. And then whenever I came back to work on a Friday, and then I literally worked every single day until yesterday.
Yeah.
And I was supposed to work yesterday, but I woke up, there was a sheet of ice on the ground, and I was like, here's a good excuse not to go to work, so I didn't. But, yeah, so, like, it's a long explanation for why I forgot there were 2 more albums, but... proceed, gentlemen.
Next was
Kolos.
We're gonna skip over the live record, any live records.
Yeah, we don't. We don't typically. Yeah,
right. Kolos.
I am Colossus.
Oh my God!
I love this song.
Oh my God, this record is killer.
It's would we say it's their heaviest record?
I don't know if I would say it.
Well, because like they have a lot of hard riffs. A lot of it's hard. And like it's kind of that hard type of heavy, but this is like slow, like dirgy heavy.
This is like doom metal levels of heavy without being doom metal.
Right.
So you remember what I said earlier about Meshuggah influencing all the Degent bands? Yeah. I kind of feel like this was, guys, you're not doing it right. You do it like this. And this is the album that we got.
This was Dad beating you at arm wrestling, is what this was.
Over and over.
Yeah,
this is kind of to me like the label told Meshuggah, hey, the hot style right now is stoner metal. Why don't you guys make a stoner metal album, a doom metal?
Okay.
You know, like it's almost like Metalocalypse, and you can see them kind of all hanging. How do we make a stoner metal album? And like, okay, let's do Kolos.
Yeah.
That almost went to like an Italian accent right there.
No,
let's do a Kolos. It's me, Mario. Meshuggah.
Yeah, no, and this is like, and we've been hinting over the last few weeks that I might actually be a meathead and not appreciate anything about music, and this record proves it, because like I immediately like that I was like triggered. I was like, this record is so heavy, and I love it just because of that. But I feel like it's wrong for me to say that. Yeah, it's one of those, like, I like it because it's heavy.
Dan needs an outlet is what he's trying to say.
But in this day and age, you're not allowed to say that. You got to find the finesse and everything. Back in the early 2000s, it was okay for me to like stuff just for being heavy, but now we have a podcast, so I have to say something intelligent about it.
Well, it's definitely slowed down. It's definitely brutal. I think they were trying to make a point on this, and it's a little more in your face. I like it.
It's dirgy. To me, it's their dirgiest record.
So another Transformer record, because Dirge, that was another Transformer.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a good one.
We already brought up Jazz earlier, too.
Oh, we sure did.
Yep, Jazz.
You know what this album is? This album is an onslaught.
Settle down, Ironhide.
This is terrible.
We didn't bring up like Wheeljack or anything like that.
I want to listen to Shockwave now.
Oh, Shockwave. Yes, man.
I've got a cassette sitting around someplace.
The Quiggle Boys.
Yeah, man.
I've got the Ultimate Doom on cassette and CD. I don't think there's a vinyl for it.
Is that the... I don't know which one that is.
That was the last one that they did.
Oh, okay. I think I've got their first one on cassette.
Okay.
That Seasons of the Field split that we were talking about earlier with Pensive, that has a Transformers quote in that song in Drawback. When Megatron's talking to Optimus Prime, he's like, "Why throw away your life so recklessly?" And then Optimus Prime says, "That's a question you should ask yourself." And I'm like, yes! Yes!
Nice.
It's like that. We used to do that. Like, I don't know if we still do, but do you ever hear like a new band or a part and you're like, yes, like they did it. Yeah. Like it's just, yeah. That's I'll transition that into The Violent Sleep of Reason.
Oh, you're good.
There was a couple parts there I was like, yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like oh gosh, Monstrocity. That's my favorite track on that album.
It's killer, yeah. This record really, like, kind of, like, I wasn't expecting... Well, I'm not going to lie. This many albums in, I wasn't expecting the band to still be good. I mean, I hate to be that guy, but, like, that's generally par for the course. We do so many discographies, so, like, it's one of those, like, I'm getting to the point now where I'm starting to see the trends. But Meshuggah doesn't give a shit about my trends, you know? So it's like, whatever.
No, I know what you're saying.
Yeah. I was really surprised, and I have the least experience with this record. I didn't even know that there was a new-ish Meshuggah record out until you told me, Danny. Actually, you're like, yeah, you can do Meshuggah. Their new one's really good. And I was like, new one? And it wasn't like new, but it was, and I was like, oh, shit. So I had to listen to that on the way home that night. And I was like, man, I don't know how this many years later they're still doing it, like, on this level.
Right. And that's the big thing is, I think it really comes down to the output level of Frederick Thorndahl.
Yeah, because I know that he's the primary riff writer for Meshuggah. Like, he does a lot of it. If you see any other interviews with them about this album, they said that this marks the first time in a while that they recorded the record live as a band. Because before they were just recording parts where, I don't know the exact order, but I mean, if they were playing everything to a click, then what Tomas would do is then he'd play drums over it. So he was playing to a pre-recorded track, if you will, and then that would end up being their album. But this one they did live.
That explains some of the computer-esque feeling of the previous records, and it's definitely not a bad thing, but it does in ways sound robotic.
Right. It in a way, some of the stuff, like even like Catch 33, sounds a little stale in that regard because of that to me. But this one, it like the Violent Sleep of Reason brings like energy. It brings life, in a way back into it where it's almost like something that they had, like, I don't want to say that they lacked it for a while, but in a way they kind of did. And I know that they've mentioned that in some of their like YouTube interviews and whatnot, but this one is really energetic.
And that's got to be hard after a period of time, because I know listening to a discography to prep up for this show, you feel bad when you get to record 5 and you're taking notes like I do, and you get to and you get to album 7 and you're trying so hard not to just type, it still sounds like Meshuggah.
Right.
Because it sounds bad to say it, but it's not. There are so many bands that get to that point where, yep, I had enough 4 records ago, guys. You're still going. And Songs from the Sparkle Lounge just came out, and Def Leppard is still writing Def Leppard songs. All right, guys, you're good. AC/DC, you're good. It still sounds like that.
Napalm Death.
Napalm Death, good God.
Wait till you hear that episode. It's going to be like 4 minutes long. We're going to be all like, Napalm Death plays extremely fast and yells all their vocals really loud, and they play at really, really fast speeds, and that's it.
We got to do that episode like Jeopardy, where we're like, all right, so I'll take... what is... All right, we're next album.
Well, I guess that's part of the... Like, I'm going to take it here, too. That's part of the genius of Meshuggah, is that every record is defined. You know, it's not... like, I can't say that any one record sounds like the other record. I can definitely mark... I'll say 3... I think that there were 3 eras of Meshuggah. I think that there was the initial era without Martin Hagstrom, the guitar player, where Jens was playing guitar. Then there's shout out to Peter Norden, because he's my bass hero. Like the tones that he got on well, I mean, even though he was on Contradictions Collapse, like None and Destroy Race Improved, just disgusting. And then I'm gonna call it like the Dick Lovegreen era, where he kind of entered in the band when the 8-string guitars came out, and it's been in that era ever since. Whereas like Dillinger, as totally chaotic as they were, they started like almost recycling. Does that?
Yeah.
I love that. Like I love Ben. I know Ben. Not well. I mean, he knows me. He's another one where if he sees me, he'll be like, "Hey," you know, and he'll call me by my name.
Hey, guy.
Hey, guy. Yeah. Hey, not just hey, guy, but like he knows me by name, and he gave me a nickname that we could talk about another time. Maybe it's a good one, but like they started recycling. And I think it was just like their natural progression where like they were like, okay, well, we've been as chaotic as we're going to be. We're touring our whole life. Like it's time to hang it up. Like that's kind of my interpretation. Maybe wrong, but that's my interpretation of it. Whereas Meshuggah is like, hey, this next record, it's not going to sound anything like the last record.
Right.
And it just keeps on happening. So I'm really excited. I heard that they're writing for another one. Yeah. I heard that they are.
Of course they are. I mean...
It's Meshuggah. They're going to keep writing until they can't.
Frederick Thorndahl is still doing Soul Niger Within. Like he missed one of the last tours, the summer tour with Megadeth, to finish Soul Niger Within to his next one, which is 20 years later.
Right.
And that's going to be incredible. So, yeah.
It's like you said, I mean, when you go from album to album, you can tell it's Meshuggah, but you can also tell that they haven't run out of material. And that's really unusual when you look at the lifespan that they've had. I mean, because technically they started in the late 80s. The first album came out in, I think, 91. But they started in the late 80s, and here we are, almost 2020, and they're still putting shit out, and it sounds the same, but it's not the same kind of thing. It sounds like Meshuggah, but it's not it sounds like Meshuggah, but it's not the same stuff. It's hard to explain. But
I'm not the same, but you're not the same, and we just want to survive.
They're still just as relevant 20 years later,
right?
You know, as they were at the beginning, and that's what makes them seminal.
Really, 30 years later now,
right?
Yeah.
It's still relevant today.
It's scary to
That's
think
incredible.
that. I know they've been doing this for. I mean, some of them were teenagers whenever they started, because I know they're late 40s.
87 when Jens started everything.
Yeah, Jens is in his early 50s, if I'm not mistaken.
It sounds like a silly statistic, but they outlasted a trend that they are accused of creating.
And he doesn't look like he's in his early 50s. He doesn't look like he's in his late 40s.
I know, he looks fantastic.
Like he's in his early 40s, if anything.
It's the Swedish blood, I'm telling you.
It's because he started shaving his hair.
Yeah,
he shaves his head.
Is that what it is? So I mean to start shaving my head
for a little while.
He did. Like, I don't know if he was, but like he had like the Krishna haircut.
Okay, yeah.
I think most of our listeners, if they're young enough, will have no idea what the hell we just said.
Kids, look it up. That's gonna be the next hipster
wait
thing.
Wait a second.
Cuts.
If he's Krishna, then who's George Harrison?
Who's George Harrison?
One thing's for sure: you're never gonna see Meshuggah handing out flowers at an airport.
You say that now, but they're writing a new record.
Oh boy, yeah. What?
Yeah, if they hand out flowers, they're going to be talking about death blooms and quoting Mudvayne.
Like they hand you an odd amount of flowers. Like they're only going to give 3 flowers, or 7 flowers, or 15 flowers.
Gotta be the title of their next tour. Meshuggah hands out flowers world tour.
Or a Meshuggah dozen. A Meshuggah dozen is 15.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, I think that's the title of the
best
episode.
quote.
Oh
that's the
my
best
gosh.
quote I've heard on this show, hands down.
Oh, that was fantastic.
Yeah. What a band. Man. What a band. I mean, what a, like, just overall in metaldom, one of the all-time greats.
Yes, agreed.
Is that your final thought?
That's going to be my final thought for Meshuggah. I really didn't put a lot of thought into it. not like their music. It's the antithesis of their music. I have put no thought into this. They are the metal band of art. They're the metal band. They are the metal band.
Definitely an N-word.
You wrote all that. You wrote all that down, right, Jeff?
Yeah.
Definitely an N-word.
So did you say the words?
I said the words.
You say all the words.
Listen.
Basically.
I didn't say every tiny little syllable.
I got it.
Send me back, like in the deal.
The Heroes was said to have come from the sky. He's said to have destroyed the evil. Well, he didn't do a very good job.
Now that is a movie.
Evil Dead 2?
No, Army of Darkness.
Well, both of them. Yeah.
Both. I was talking to somebody else about that today. This guy I work with, about the first time I saw Evil Dead 2 is my buddy worked at a video shop. Yeah, kids. There was these things called video shops in the 80s and 90s. And my buddy used to rent all these movies. He had to a couple times. Like, so he was I graduated class of 98, and he told me about some of our classmates who, after they graduated, used to ask for those movies behind the curtain.
Were any of them named Jeff?
No. And actually, they were female.
Mind blown.
Yes!
Oh, boy.
Have fun clicking on those thumbnails. Anyway, so I was online reading Bible studies.
Yeah, well, I was using
that's probably
every
accurate.
bit of my 22.5K that I was getting because I couldn't get.
What are you doing tonight? I'll be downloading porn at 15 kilobits a second. No, I'm just kidding. I got a cable modem back here. Carl, please. That's not an op-ed thing. There's not an op-ed thing. Audible.
Omaha.
You did. You freaking did.
You can say what you're going to say after the podcast. We'll stop the tape.
Yeah.
Right? We're using this. We're recording this on analog, reel to reel. But
I keep saying this.
We make
promises you can't keep.
We make cuts with actual scissors and tape, and this thing's literally just scotch taped together.
No. You guys understand? You record things reel to reel.
That are real. Wow. Hey, Jeff, can you read this? How about now?
Oh, yeah.
So, guys.
I don't want to get shot.
So, guys.
Reggie, you just got shot.
Oh, you're dead. So, final thoughts on Meshuggah.
I like Meshuggah a lot. They're a good band. I don't know.
See, that's just as much thought as I had.
That's terrible. That's no thought. If you're listening to this episode and you've never listened to Meshuggah, go listen to it in this order. Destroy, Erase, Improve.
Obzen.
Chaos Sphere.
None.
Violent Sleep of Reason, and then you can throw all the rest of them in after that in any order you wish. It doesn't matter to me.
Because you're already a super fan at that point.
You better be.
Yeah.
I think that those albums will frame your appreciation for the others that may not be that may not draw you in if they stood alone on their own. But as a whole, I think that if you look at it all kind of bookcased by these, like the beginning of it and the end of it, kind of bookcase everything in the between. And give you a really good lens to look at the rest of it through. I think that's a good way to approach it.
Cool.
Dan,
awesome.
What about you?
Look at Meshuggah. Now look at me. My final thoughts are Meshuggah is a seminal band. I say this a lot, and I say it about my favorite technical bands. You can't drop a pin between those riffs. They fill up space unlike any other band that I have ever heard. It is a complex machine. It is something that will basically, it's almost like a perpetual motion machine in that they're not really slowing down. Their songs are self-sufficient. And yeah, there are times where it may sound bland. It may sound like robots are playing. But that's kind of like their whole thing. One thing that we didn't talk about at all during this episode was the vocals. And I think that they really deserve a special mention because, yes, it's not like, it's not your death metal growl. It's not a black metal shriek. It's not a hardcore growl. It's the vocals for Meshuggah are very unique in the sense that they are harsh to where they actually match the music. They are audible. One of the few bands you can actually listen to and
they're intelligible.
Kind of sing. Yeah, you can hear it, but it's not like a lack of extremity there. Right. It really is. They're just as well thought out and complex as the music, and that's really hard to achieve. And I think that they nailed it. So, final thought on Meshuggah is just that if you are into complexity and you're mechanically minded, Meshuggah is definitely the band for you.
Jeff?
Very cool. I think Dan kind of touched on just about everything that I wanted to say. I'm kind of bummed I didn't go first now.
Sorry, buddy.
No, I mean,
what's that co-host?
Oh, yeah,
I know.
Co-host. Yeah, I didn't say anything. What am I saying? No, I didn't say anything at all. No. Destroy, Erase, Improve. Probably, in my opinion, one of the most important metal albums in the history of metal. I think it's you wouldn't have the technical, progressive, or experimental stuff that you do now without that album. I think, and of course, that whole Genty scene that that happened for I guess it's still going on, but I just like how they were able to expand people's horizons and open their minds and make them look at metal from a different perspective. It was not that album is not about meathead, you're a bitch, I'm gonna kick your ass. I mean, this was an intelligent individual's metal. That's kind of how I looked at it. It made you think, hey, you know what? I can be a nerd and I can still like metal. I mean, because there's Meshuggah. I mean, because that's really what it was for me. Like, I was a total closet, metal fan back in the 90s because I used to get so much shit about it. So I just hid it from everybody. When I went out, when I went away to college and discovered Meshuggah, I felt like I was liberated. I was like, you know what? I can listen to this and be proud to be a metalhead. It's not awesome. It's not all just thrash and in your face with shitty lyrics. I'm not saying that all the bands before that were that way, but there's an awful lot of it.
No, but by comparison, it's kind of that's what we're looking. I think that's what we're not really saying any of this is bad. It's just that in our opinion, by comparison, they're superior. Meshuggah is a superior band.
Yes. And still are, and that's the amazing thing is that here we are, 25, 30 years later, and everybody's still trying to play catch up. That's really
yeah, totally.
That's really what it is. I mean, they are the trendsetter. That's who everybody that I like, who they look to, as far as inspiration. I mean, you can just, down the list, I guarantee you that somewhere they're saying, yes, Meshuggah is a band that influences us. And if they're not, they're lying. I mean, because they're that important. That's just kind of how I look at it. So yeah, I love these guys. I love everything that they brought to metal. I think they are. Outside of the, I do like melodic death metal, but the technical side of things that I love, like one of my favorite bands of all time is Cybreed. There would be no Cybreed without Meshuggah, just because of how technical it is, and the weird ass time signatures that they made, the norm essentially. I love it. I listen to it all the time. And I'm so glad that you guys got Dan to do this episode, because it was going to be another year before I was going to get him to do it.
Yay!
I had to get through my backlog of extensive Christian metal bands and albums.
Yeah, see, we have to listen to everything that Dan knows first.
Well, we can get right back into that with Extol sometime soon.
Oh, yes. For sure.
That's not a problem.
You guys had really good final thoughts. And our final thought was just yeah, they're amazing.
Yeah, really
mind
good.
Blown, really good. Yeah.
Well, we've done this 52 times up to this point, so
I'm about to
go back and listen to our Metallica final thoughts, from episode 1. That was not like it is now.
If it wasn't everything from Black Album on is dead to me, then the final thought was wrong.
Okay, well.
Oh yes.
You know what,
Josh, I like. Woo!
You know what? Go on and comment on that. Then
I'm gonna have to start working my way back through your backlog.
Listen to it backwards. That's always fun.
Yeah.
For most bands that I check out, that's what I do. I start off with the newest album and go back. I do that for the discography discussions too, to mix it up, when I'm prepping up. But Joe, did we get your final thoughts, buddy?
You're about to.
All right. We ain't got a choice.
Hey.
Out of all the bands I've played in and all the musicians that I've spent many, many hours and minutes around, the ones that come to mind the most are the ones that spent a lot of time not writing new songs. Because I've always been able to identify the serious musicians when you say, this is a really good idea, we should click on a metronome just to kind of get it locked in. And they don't say no, because the ones that don't want to put forth the effort don't think that it's important to lock in the groove. I've always been a proponent and an advocate of the groove comes first. And anytime anybody says you don't have to play to a metronome to be a good band or to be influential or to have a groove, the drummer's not supposed to be locked in on some specific tempo. And I always say, do you think you're better than Meshuggah? Because you couldn't count to 11 right now if you had to for the next 5 hours.
Right.
So Meshuggah is the band that I want people to listen to that want to be better musicians, and especially if you're metal and you want to be a little bit different, just a little bit, learn how to lock it in, because you don't have to change it all the time or do something ridiculously over the top for people to notice, because this band has put out 9 records.
15,
including EPs. Absolutely.
Take out the live records, and I think, or then you get 13.
And they've locked it in for an hour at a time.
Got to count now. Continue. Yeah.
If you want a definition of lock it in, listen to Meshuggah.
Yeah, man. We'll call it 10, because there's a couple EPs in here that I wouldn't necessarily call a significant EPs, like rare tracks. The True Human Design was really good, though. Same thing with Self Cage. But yeah, 10 albums. 10 albums in 30 years.
So if you guys have time.
Dan's pulling a Jeff. He's changing the rules on us.
Well, yeah, I'm notorious for doing that.
Which Dan? Are you talking about Danny or Dan?
I don't know anymore.
Danny is pulling.
I don't know which one's the evil one.
Who am I?
That's definitely me.
You're good, Ash, and I'm bad, Ash. You're a goody little two-shoes. Goody little two-shoes. Goody little two-shoes.
I'm not that good.
Good. Bad.
I'm the one with a gun.
Hey, what's that on your face?
Yes. See, it's one of those moments where you do the quote, and I'm like, yes. You know, it's good.
If you guys have time, I know we've had you on the phone for a long time.
Reading this passage will cause the entity to take a physical form. Why the hell would we want to do that?
We got to do bands of the week.
Well, yeah, we do, but if they have time, I would like to talk about Not Beneath a little bit.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because I have been for the past, how many episodes?
For the last 5,
You've made it your album of the week, I think, twice at this point.
Yeah, so...
Thanks, man.
Yeah, well, I do. Like, I'm one of those people that I don't like hand out compliments. I don't hand out praise unless I really love something. It's not one of those, like...
Or your name's Travis Turner.
Well, I'm just one of those, like... I liked Travis before I knew Travis. I liked his drumming. But anyway, so I have a weird story about Not Beneath in that where I work for a dialysis company, and we make a lot of water. That's our thing. We purify people's blood, essentially, to put it in very simplistic terms.
Sounds fun.
I had a humongous water spill.
So it's blood water?
No, it's not blood water. I was by myself, so like every month I have to purify the water system at the dialysis clinic. It takes about 10 hours.
Yeah. Wow.
And I do it at 3 different clinics. So I'm at this clinic. It's like freezing cold outside, and I get this huge water spill. And it's like to the point where I'm almost going to call Roto-Rooter and ask them to come out and do it. But instead, I'm standing there with a shop vac, sucking it up until the shop vac fills up, pouring it in a sink. And at the time, I'm listening to the newest episode of As the Story Grows, which features this band I haven't heard of called Not Beneath. But I know that one of the dudes was in Narcissist, and the other dude was in a band that I used to like called Outcry. I don't like him anymore. No, but so it just kind of blasts from the past. Like, you know, Becoming Leviathans was one of my favorite records, and I liked the Outcry, Hope for the Torn Heart CD. That's all stuff from my past. They're just names that like I hadn't heard in a while, you know.
Yeah.
And so I was very intrigued, and so I listened to your guys' interview with Travis. And, like, I'm only halfway listening to it because I'm, like, sucking up all this water, you know?
Right.
And then I'm like, okay, that sounds very good. But then he starts playing clips of the music. And he played a clip from The Wisdom of Joseph. And I'm listening to it. I'm like, all right, it's hardcore. I like it. It's cool. It's heavy. It's, you know, it's in your face. I like the vocals. They sound, like, you know, different. Like, they sound like something from a bygone era. Which, I mean, not any offense to that. But, like the kind of stuff I was hearing in like the early 2000s, late 90s, and those are the kind of hardcore vocals that I love, because I feel like now it's like you're either doing like the deathcore thing, or you're doing like you know, so this like half shout yell kind of like emo thing. And so I was really, really into that. And then whenever I heard the vocoder come in on the chorus, or I guess it's a chorus, it's not really a chorus, but I heard the vocoder and I was like, totally like, oh my God, what was that? And so like I went, because you could rewind 15 seconds on a podcast. So like I kept rewinding it and playing it over and over and over again. And I'm having a terrible night. And like I got the leak cleaned up. And then I walk out to my car doesn't start. And I'm like, oh my God. So then I called AAA to have them come out and jump the car essentially. And for that 45 minutes that they were there, or that I was waiting for them to come, I listened to the episode again. You know, like, but like nice. Actually paying attention to it, not like, you know. And so I got all the details. I was like, oh my God, yeah, like, you know, I'm really, really, really into this. And that's whenever I started commenting on Facebook and started, you know, I was like, because I needed something positive, you know. I needed something, you know, some kind of good news, and like that those clips really hit me. And unfortunately, I think I ended up working like close to 70 hours or something that week. Maybe more. I don't remember. It was such a long week. And all I had were those clips because I knew the record was going to come out on January 16th, which was the day after my birthday. And I actually took a vacation, which was horrible timing considering what happened a few days later. But and so I was like, man, this is really good. And I listened to those clips. I listened to that episode like a bunch of times that week while I was working. And I just got so into it that whenever the record did finally drop and I did get to hear it, I downloaded it. I bought it on Bandcamp and downloaded it at midnight, whenever it came out or whenever it posted. Yeah. And I listened to it on my sound system and everything. I just, I was like really, really, really enraptured with it. And the thing that I loved the most about it, besides just the vocoder, because that's like the vocoder is kind of the icing on the cake or the thing that pulls you in, first. Like that's the first thing you notice, and then you're like, oh, I want to hear it. But then whenever I got like really into the songs, I was really blown away by like just really long, complicated. So like I think the second song is like over 6 minutes long.
Yeah.
And just really, really in your face, aggressive, but like with a lot of melody in there, but like not contrived melody. Not like, okay, guys, we're going to break into this melodic chorus and it's going to sound like synth pop for the next, 48 seconds, and then we're going to kick back into into like a beat down or anything like that. And I don't know, it's hard to describe, and I will eventually end up posting a full written review for the CD on our blog, which will be a lot more well thought out than what I'm giving you tonight. But
no, thanks, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, we really appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, you guys worked hard on it, and you can tell,
Boy, did we ever work hard on that.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Yeah, I mean, you can feel the passion in a lot of recordings, and it definitely sounds like you took your time on it. And like I said, I don't really hand out praise like this too much, but I think in this case it was well deserved. I remember rushing down to the studio. We were doing another episode, and like I was like, Joe's trying to like do his job, right? He's trying to set the microphones up or whatever. And I'm like, no, dude, Not Beneath posted a lyric video for this song. And I was like, you need to listen to that. Joe's like, okay, but we got this episode to do. I was like, no, put the song on. Just listen to the song, and I think that was the first time Jeff had heard it.
No, I heard the clips from As the Story Grows.
Yeah.
Nice.
That, I mean, like, when you're talking about it, it's making me think of when you said it's not contrived. We're really, I mean, we're 90s kids. Like
right.
Like at least in terms of our musical, what's the word I'm looking for? Like when we really got into music, when we started our local bands.
Our formative music years.
Yeah.
Were definitely that late 90s, like,
really all of it, like from like 90, almost all of the 90s had such a big impact on us musically. It was a really magical time in the scene, in the metal scene, in the hardcore scene. Like there was something magical was happening in the 90s, and we got to like experience the tail end of that. And
right,
so we tried to put a lot of that. So you're saying it, I'm like, awesome, mission accomplished. But the other thing too is, you first.
When we first started out and started talking about like, okay, we're gonna do this. What is it gonna sound like? And we're just like, well, I think that we should just like try and funnel that idea of the 90s and just make it sound like the 90s. And it changed a lot from that starting idea. But like, I looking back on that time and spent with a group of people, around bands like Strong Arm and Zayo, and like the first iteration of Zayo with Sean and Roy and Mick, Jesse, sure, where it was just really special time spent with dudes that, looking back, it was much more than just a musical experience. It was the beginning of my understanding of like community between people, and having a place where you could be honest with dudes that, I don't know, it was just really special. And we wanted to try and come at it from that perspective of just trying to be as honest as we could be about where we are now. And musically, I think we wanted to approach it from the perspective of like, well, we're not going to put out a 90s hardcore record, you know?
Yeah, and our influences have kind of not changed, but like have grown over the years. So it's kind of just like many other bands do. Like we wanted to do our take of not just of our influences, but just kind of some of the music just kind of came forth. Like we were writing, you're jamming, just so like some of the old bands used to do, if you will. You're jamming and you're like, wow, like let's make this a part. Like it's almost all of my favorite parts on that album are parts Josh wrote. And I tried writing music just on my own, and it seemed to just never work. And when we decided that this was like actually going to be a thing, it was awesome to bounce ideas off of another person, and then vice versa. And then we started, we just built on that. So, like if kind of even tying this back to Meshuggah, like if you think about, they started in 87 and they released their first full length 4 years later. And we probably could have done that too, but I mean, we'd get together. Josh lives like 50 minutes away from me. And we only had Monday nights because we have families and jobs, full-time jobs. And we committed to each other though. And said that, hey, like we are going to get this done. And we kept on saying like, this is it, this is the year, we're going to do it. And finally we're like, it has to come out. Like we're done with it. Now we just like, it's go time. We have to do it. There's a, URM, Unstoppable Recording Machine, Joey Sturgis. Well, he did that Daniel Bergstrand Meshuggah episode. And Daniel's like, you got to just commit. Like, back in the day, we used to just commit things to tape, and then that was it. Like, it's done. Like, we'd put a compressor on the bass, and like we would tweak it out and say, yeah, like it feels good, it sounds good, let's just go with it. Instead of like what we were doing is every Monday we'd get together and we'd tweak a song to death, and we were just like, it wasn't happening. So finally we're just like, okay, well, we're gonna get it done. Like, we're gonna commit to it.
We stripped it all down.
Yeah,
like we took everything off of every channel and started completely over
from scratch,
remixed that entire record. It took us a couple months.
A good couple months to do.
Yeah, maybe even 3. But like we just weren't making any progress before, so we had kind of stalled out. But we had made this decision that we were going to see it through to its completion. And we did, and I think that we're really happy, and I think that you can tell that it took us a long time because it took us forever. But I mean, like the Wisdom of Joseph is actually like the last song we actually wrote, because it was a song that we weren't happy with, and so we went back and tore it all apart and wrote like mostly a new song.
Yeah, I mean, we kept a couple of the old parts, and then. And then we finally felt like we got to the point where it was right. I recorded the bass a few times all the way through because we're not really jamming together. We didn't have all of the tools necessary. I mean, like we jammed, but in the fact that like we would write a part and then jam it and like, wow, that really works. But we didn't have that luxury because we don't have a full band. So, we're really proud of it. We're hoping other people enjoy it just as much as we do. Just like everything else. We're hoping that it just speaks to somebody, that it improves just at least one person's life. So it's always funny how like hardcore and metal, some metal has that component where it's not just the music. Well, we think that the music can stand on its own, but the lyrics are kind of, to me, that's the icing on the cake. Like if you can write lyrics that really you put your heart into and that are not contrived. Christian records can be really contrived. Let's face it. They can't be. And that was probably my biggest concern with lyric writing with this, is that it doesn't sound like a contrived lyrical record. I mean, even like when you just read the lyrics, there's some things that might sound that way, but if anybody ever wanted explanation, I'll be like, look, I'll tell you about that time in my life, and that's why I wrote that.
Right.
Or, same thing with Josh.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that shows. I mean, I'm a big lyric guy, and it's one of those things where I feel like the lyrics were written in such a way that even if you don't necessarily agree with everything in them, because to me, a contrived record makes bold statements. It's not that it's not okay to make bold statements. It's totally, especially considering your influences and your roots, there's nothing wrong with that. But lyrics that you can really tell the difference whether you agree with them or disagree with them on whatever key point you want to bring up. You feel like the person that wrote them is being honest with you about whatever their struggle was, or see you could see that come through just in the way the lyrics are written and the way they're delivered, and it definitely helped me out a lot. I've not had a great 2018, and Not Beneath has been part of that for me. Not contributing to the not being great
Making
part,
it terrible.
yeah, my God, yeah. We just had you guys on just to trash it, but no, like it was.
Thank you.
Yeah, right, no problem. No, but it really was that thing that I got to look forward to during a pretty dark time. I mean, even though my son wasn't in the hospital until after the record came out, but that week leading up to my birthday, like my vacation that I was like coveting, like it was going to be this great vacation I was going to have. I was going to be worth, and like, of course, that's always like the hardest week that you have. Is where you're, running back and forth. And so I had a lot of time to really sink my teeth into the record and kind of get to the meat of it. And
awesome.
And I guess what I'm trying to say is good job, guys. Like it's,
thanks,
man.
Yeah, while you guys have been talking, I've just been jamming out because Joe's been playing Memento Mori.
We didn't
in the background.
Yeah, we didn't. We always play music when we're talking. We the whole time we were talking about Meshuggah, we were listening to Meshuggah, and right now we're listening to Not Beneath. We're wondering, are you guys okay with that? Like with us having your music playing in the background, like on the podcast?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's no problem.
Yeah, we talk over it most of the time, so it's not like we're giving people like a free record or anything. But it's I think you guys can stream pretty much most of the record on Bandcamp.
Yeah, I mean,
all of it on
listen to it on. We don't care if you don't pay for it. We just want people to like it.
Sure. Sure.
So Spotify, Bandcamp, you can stream it in both of those places.
I think I said, you can listen to it on Not Beneath. I think I said that.
Oh, no,
that's great.
Listen to Not Beneath on Not Beneath.
Yeah, because it's 11:40 for us right now. And
I'm so sorry, guys.
No, it's fine.
I probably should bail pretty fast because I got to be up in I got a 45, 50-minute drive back home, and then I got to be back up at 5:30.
Yeah,
so.
Totally feel you. Well, we will continue this on the Extol episode.
Nice.
All right.
Yes.
I'll try to coordinate that with you guys the best I can.
Well, thanks again for having us on with all this and allowing us to do the discography for my favorite band ever.
For sure.
We're glad that you guys came on. It's been fun.
Yeah, it really it has been. It's been cool.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, homies. We'll do this again.
All right,
see you next time.
Good.
Later.
See ya.
Bye.
And on that note, this has been episode 52 of Discography Discussion. Thank you for listening. You can like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at discussmetal. Subscribe to our podcast everywhere you listen to podcasts, including Google Play, iTunes, and Stitcher. Visit discussmetal.com for all things discography discussion, and please send questions and comments to danandjoeshow@gmail.com. If you are not a patron, you can become one at patreon.com/discussmetal. We have some sweet perks. Thank you, Danny and Josh, for hanging out with us talking about Meshuggah. You guys can find Not Beneath online on Facebook, and you can buy their album everywhere you can stream albums.
Yeah.
There will always be Kurt Warner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Never forget.
Yep. Kurt Warner. You know what's funny is
I've seen Kurt Warner and talked to him so many times since then, because like I used to do these youth group events, like organize these youth group events, and it was always so cool to have Kurt Warner come and talk at these events, and it was always just so like he would give this like amazing testimony to these kids, and then he'd be like, anybody have any questions? And it's like everybody just skipped right over everything that he talked about and was like, okay, so when you won the Super Bowl, did you? It's so funny.
Yeah.
This is like years after. But
gosh, who was the running back? I can't remember the running back. Who?
Marshall
I can see
Faulk?
his face, but I can't remember his name. No,
that was yeah, sorry. I'm not good at football.
St. Louis, the running back for St. Louis.
Dan's not a sports ball fan.
I'm not a sports ball fan. Yeah, I watch baseball.
Which running back from when? Now?
No, from their Super Bowl run with Kurt Warner.
Oh, that's Marshall Faulk. That's what.
Marshall Faulk. That's right.
Thank you. Dan actually got one right.
Oh, okay, cool. Let's add that to my
Dan
board.
can go to trivia night now.
Add that to my board.
Yeah, hey, Super Trivia. You know what I'm talking about? Super Trivia, Aqua Teen Hunger Force.
Yeah, that's going way back. No,
Wayne the Brain, McLean.
Wayne the Brain. Thank you. Yes.
I'm gonna be Carl and sit in the corner and eat a bunch of wings.
Dude,
you will stay and hang out with Wayne. Wayne has $5.
Hey, you! Yeah, you dingbat. I'll have a pitch of beer, the nachos grande, and 50 chicken wings extra hot. Keep the ranch coming.
I said 50 more wings.
Yeah. And that's why Carl's not able to get full. Yeah,
he's a glutton.
Man, I used to love that show. I still do.
I loved when they just kept it going. Like, we're going to stop making Aqua Teen, and it was just no. We're just going to change the name.
I remember going over.
We're going to keep making the show.
I remember going over to Buddy's house to write music, and all we wanted to do was watch Aqua Teen Hunger Force.
We talked about this a couple weeks ago. Christian music is like, if you were to take out the good Christian metal bands like Living Sacrifice, Extol, Strong Arm, kind of Zayo.
Classic Mortification.
You can say Zayo. It's fine.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's
know allowed.
What I mean. If you were to take out all these good Christian metal bands, Christian music might still edge out Christian movies because there are no good Christian movies.
Not real. I mean, did you see God's Not Dead?
I kind of refuse to see God's Not Dead.
Okay, well, let me give you a little synopsis. A discography discussion exclusive. Kevin Sorbo is a pissed off college professor.
Hercules?
Hercules, Kevin Sorbo. Yeah, it gets better.
Does he have the sleeveless tee on?
No. I was kind of like, dude, if he flexes too hard, that shirt's going to just rip to shreds. But, so, Kevin Sorbo is a pissed off teacher, and a young white male, which represents all Christians, as we know, is attending college there. A very expensive college. I'm not going to get into privilege and, him being able to attend college and all that. However, what I am going to get into is that this kid is a Christian, through and through, man. And he's going to go up against this college professor because the college professor, Kevin Sorbo, wants everybody to write on a piece of paper, God is dead. Because, that's totally what happens in college, right?
Well,
it has happened. I have had teachers.
Yeah,
I have had teachers or professors that have been anti-Christian or trying to push that, and that's fine. But a lot of those people, at least in my experience, I've been able to have a conversation with and just be like, this is what I believe, man. I hope it doesn't get me an F. I just wanted to let you know, like that sort of thing. But
so you're saying you didn't go to UC Berkeley?
I did not go to UC Berkeley. Let me go get some money off the money tree. But yeah. You're going to tell me that Hercules was taken out by a car?